The first thing we're going to do when we build up the cam and oil pump chest here is we're going to remove the stock cam bearing. We're going to put a good performance bearing in there. The difference being is that the stock bearing is a caged roller bearing and the new bearing is a like roller on roller, and I'll show you images of those. Once I get this one out, I'll show you that one. The bearing on the left is the bearing we took out. I don't know if you can notice that there's a roller and then like a space, then a roller and a space. Well, a space is actually like a cage. It's a caged roller bearing. The bearing on the right is the S&S bearing. It has roller on top of roller on top of roller on top of roller, which gives us much more surface area to contact the cam and is a much more durable and sturdy bearing. So I would always advise replacing your cam bearing with the bearing style that is on the right. And we use the same tool, or a part of that same tool, to install the new bearing. So I've already gone in there and cleaned all this out. I got all the oil and everything off of where this bearing sits. And actually I'm going to go ahead and put some fresh oil in the bore there, the bearing boss. Spread it around. And I'll spread some on the bearing itself. So it presses in nice and easily. I'm also going to take some of, as long as I got it out, I'm going to take some of this engine assembly lube. And I'm going to lube up all those little rollers in this bearing here. So get it all lubricated. I'll spin it around, make sure it's all spread out. That way we know our bearing is going to be good for installation. All right, terrific. So there is a specific way you press in the bearing. If there's any writing numbers or any marks on the bearing, that faces outwards. If you look at the ends of the bearing, the surface that has the writing on it, the surface that faces out, is a little flatter, and the surface that goes in has just the ever so slightest little bit of a taper to it to help guide it into the bearing boss. Now, to make absolutely sure that it goes in correctly, we're going to use the correct tool to make sure it presses in correctly. Of course, we're going to use our plates. We have a threaded installer rod. We're going to screw this in. On the back of that, we have another adapter that screws on the end of that. And with that, we have this shouldered piece that has a step in it, and this will press the bearing in not only square, but to the exact depth we need it to. So we pop that, and it just slips right over like that. And then we take our bearing, making sure that we have the correct orientation where the words are going to face out. Stick it on the adapter there. And this whole contraption, now we bolt with our thumb screws right to where the cam cover goes. Uses the same holes as the cam cover. All right, now that the setup's done, the easy part is just to tighten the screw. And you know when you're done because it'll just stop. Once it hits that shoulder, it just stops. You don't want to force it too much. I think we're right about there. Oh, yep, it stops. And once it stops, you just back the screw out. And you can take all these out, take the whole press tool off, and we're all finished. There we go. There's that. And the bearing is perfectly installed and still spins freely. Now the way the pump comes is all together with a zip tie holding it, kind of holding it all in place. So we're going to, of course, cut the zip tie, discard that, and we're going to take apart the pump to lubricate it, because right now it's all dry. You don't want to put it in, you know, just dry like that. So we're going to lubricate the pump, put it back together, and then we'll install it on the bike. So to take it apart, it just kind of slides apart real easy. So I'm going to take off piece by piece, and I'm going to put it back the same way it came together. So I'm going to take this piece, I'm going to flip it over, stick it on the tray. And I know when I put it back together, I flip it back over to put it back into the pump. So, and this comes out, flip it over. This piece here, the main body, I guess, comes out, and flip that over. And then we got these pieces here. And so we got 3-stage pumps. So flip that over. Separator plates, flip that over. Okay. No. There we go. So this will be our bottom piece, and we'll build up from here. And then everything we know when we put it back on, we always kind of flip over, put in the same order as we took them apart in, and that way we know that it's went together the same way that it came back apart. So we got these little pins here. So actually put those pins together. So don't lose those, and make sure they're in place when you get it together. So again, we're going to use our engine assembly lube, and I actually like to squirt some motor oil in there too, just to make sure it's extra lubricated. Just going to squirt plenty of this in there. Rub it around, get on all the surfaces. There you go. Again, like I said, pump some motor oil in there. Of course, we're working on a clean tray. All right. So we'll take our outer piece here. Get it all lubed up. This piece, get all lubed up. There we go. And our separator plate, let's go ahead and stick some assembly lube on that. Let's see here, there we go. There. Good. More lube. Looking good. Yep. Okay. There we go. All lubed up. Okay, and here is the tool. It's got a couple, it's got like a taper ground into it, a couple flats that match the flats on the crankshaft. So this will help us get it all lined up. That one in, there we go, a little further. spins nice and smooth. So now the gears are all lined up. Everything spins smoothly. I don't know if you can hear all the oil and the gears kind of hitting each other. So, all right. So now this can be installed on the engine. Before I do that, I am going to replace these O-rings in here. So the reason why I left these O-rings in here this long and didn't just take them out when I was on disassembly is because, let's say I make some kind of bonehead move and forget to put the O-rings in, then put the cam cover on and whatever, forget about it. Well, if I forget to put the new ones in, at the very least, the old ones are still in there. They're still going to work. So this is more of a protection against, I guess, protection against stupidity. So I like to have, an O-ring in my hand, pop the old one out, put the new one in. That way I know it's done, and I don't have to worry about it. So they just pop right out. I'll put a little bit of anything will work. This is engine assembly lube, oil, anything like that. Kind of lube up the O-ring and stick it in there. There we go. And same thing, I'll take out this other O-ring, put the new one in at the same time. There. So we're going to orient our oil pump in the correct direction. So this here is the part that goes into the O-ring that we just put in on that bottommost O-ring. So we'll kind of lube this up. We'll orient this in the correct direction so it's sitting the way we want. I got the flats on our crankshaft facing up and down, so 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock, so I can use my lineup tool to get all the gears lined up the same. And I'll just kind of push it right on. The crankshaft will push the lineup tool out, and if everything goes well, it'll actually slide in. If not, you may have to do this a couple of times if like one of the gears decides to, wander as the crank's pushing out the lineup tool. So let's try this. Yep. Almost, there we go. There we go. Okay. So almost in. So make sure that that engages fully with that O-ring in the case down there. So I'm going to have to take a little bit of pressure and pop it in. Okay. Whew. It took quite a bit of force to get in. It's mostly just because there's a tight fit on that bottom O-ring. Now everything should move over the shaft nice and freely, and it did. It's just that O-ring's pretty tight. You know you have it bottomed out when this surface of the oil pump is at or below the surface where the cam plate mounts to. So we're below there, it popped in finally. So from this point, the cam and cam plate are actually pretty easy to put in. So we got our S&S cam plate. Made sure all our plugs are tight. We're all good there. So of course take our lube and put a generous helping of lube all over this, where the oil pump's going to touch, where the cam's going to touch, where all the bearing surfaces are at. Spread it all around. There you go. And we're going to put some on the cam as well. Now, only on the bearing surfaces do you want to put the assembly lube. The lobes, just motor oil. Now, if this was a flat tappet cam, like we'd find in a old car, then yes, obviously you'd be putting the special type of cam break-in lube, assembly lube on the lobes. But this assembly lube, we don't put on the lobes, we just put motor oil on the lobes. So go ahead and take some motor oil, and actually I'll squirt some on the cam plate too, and just make sure everything is all really good and lubed up. I also do the lobes here. So it's all good and wet. There we go. You can make sure our oil pump has got plenty of lube on it, oil on it. Just put our cam into the cam plate. Should go right in and spin nice and smooth. When that's done, line it up, kind of watch to make sure that the back of the cam is going to go into the cam bearing. Make sure that all the bushings, like the bushing lines up the crankshaft, and once it's happy, it should pop right in, just like that. Okay, make sure it's sitting solid. I believe it's sitting solid. And from here, and even S&S made it nice and easy. They wrote numbers next to where all the cam retaining bolts go, and that's the order that you torque them down. So do that. For these, you use your stock bolts that you took out before. I'll put just the slightest, teeniest little bit of blue Loctite on these. Screw them all in. And then run them down in the order listed. So I got the torque wrench, and these get torqued to, I put them at 100 inch-pounds. 100 inch-pounds of torque. Actually, I might even go a little bit shy at first. I think we're probably going about, this probably 80 or so. Just make sure they all feel good, and then I'll do a final torque at 100. For the oil pump itself, make sure you use the supplied bolts for the oil pump that S&S gives you, and just go through in the order of the letters here, A, B, C, and D. Now this we're going to be extra careful, and we're going to go very slowly on this, because what we're going to do when we tighten these bolts is we're actually going to pull the oil pump up to the mating surface of the cam plate. Because right now, as it sits, since we pushed the oil pump all the way back, it's sitting all the way back. We're going to move the oil pump until it touches the cam plate. So we're going to move it just a little bit at a time. To make sure it comes up all square and sits flushly on the cam plate. So right now I'm just going to kind of run these down again. And so the bolts just touch with no pressure. So now, actually what I do is I'll put the crankshaft bolt in. And I'll get that snug. So I'm going to spin the crankshaft kind of as I tighten the oil pump and torque the oil pump very slowly, just to make sure that just all the gears and everything's sitting perfectly squared, perfectly where it should be. And when we finally get it torqued down, it's exactly centered on the pinion shaft. So you can't see from your, from where the camera's at, but I have a hold of the connecting rods, and I'm going to just guide the connecting rods so they don't kind of slap around. But I'm going to go ahead and turn over the motor a little bit. There we go. Get a few cranks, a few revolutions. There we go. And now we can go ahead and start torquing our oil pump. So right now I'm just going to do the A and B. I'm just going to go about 50 inch-pounds. I'm going to spin the motor over again. At least a couple times. There we go. I'm going to do C and D to 50 inch-pounds. There we go. Okay. I'm going to turn the motor over again. Everything feels smooth. Okay. So now I say we're free to go ahead and torque to 100 inch-pounds on all four. We'll go to about 80 first. So I want to go kind of sneak up on that torque. Now we go to 100. $100. $100. That's 100. And there we go. One of the next things we're going to do is install the cam gears and cam chain. First, there's a spacer that goes in. We're just going to take the stock spacer for now and put a little bit of oil on it. It's possible that we may have to put a thicker or thinner spacer, but we'll start with the stock one. And then we'll see from there, once we get this together, if it's going to work or not. In fact, what we'll do is at first we're going to take the cam chain off of the gears. And we're just going to put the gears on by themselves. There we go. Okay. We'll put the gears on. And we'll run the bolts in. And we'll see how our gears line up, as whether or not they're flush or not. We may have to space in or space out the cam gear to match up with the crank gear. So for these, we just use our gun to go quickly. There we go. Okay. And see. Spins good. All right. So Now we come from the side and look this way at the gears and see if they line up. They actually look like they line up really well. You could also take like the flat part of the razor blade here, right there, and put it right on the edge of the gears and see if there's any mismatch. And these are really close. I think we'll be fine. Go from side to side. Yeah, I think that stock spacer is about perfect. I wouldn't change that at all. If anything, it's off by like just a couple thousandths or so. But I think you want to be within 10. So, yeah, I'm not going to touch that. That's good. Put her chain back on. You want it to go in the same direction it was. So if the chain was, spinning that way, keep it going that way. Otherwise, so the same side that was facing out, keep it facing out so the original chain runs the same direction. And we find the dot on the cam gear, the big gear, there's a dot there. And if you look at the gears, the dot is in like a little, I guess, valley. There's another dot that's towards like a peak on the crank gear. So of course, those two should point directly at each other, right there. Just like that. And now we can put our gears back on. There we go. Okay. And we'll put some red Loctite on our crank bolt and our cam bolt. Not a lot, just a little bit. Turn it in. Again, not much. Red Loctite goes a long way. Start to thread it in. And we have this tool here. If you can see those ridges there, those lock the gears together. If I can, I have to move the crank just a little bit just to get those to line up perfectly. If I can do it there. All right, so once it locks in, the gears are locked together, and now we can properly torque those gears. So the bottom gets torqued to 25 foot-pounds. Okay. The top for the cam gear gets torqued to, I think 35 foot-pounds. Okay, so first off, for the hydraulic tensioner, I just like to use just a teeny dab of blue. Doesn't take much. And I will actually take the rubbing block out of this, and notice there's a hydraulic plunger in there. And a spring. And what I'm going to do is actually lube this, oil this up, and put it back together. Now we can install this. That goes on just like that, and then put in the screws. Super easy. A 1/4 bolt again gets pulled, torqued to 100 inch-pounds. So 100. Time for lifters. We can put lifters in now. So we're going to put lube, the assembly lube, on the side surfaces or where the lifters rub on the engine case. And then the rollers, we're going to just use motor oil on. It would actually be okay if you just used motor oil over the whole thing. If you look at the lifter, if you rotate the lifter, in one of these ground kind of slots there, you'll see a hole. Like one side has a hole, the other side doesn't. This one does not have a hole. This side does have the hole. So this is actually the hole that feeds the lifter oil from the engine, the oil pump. So I'll take the end of my little squirt gun, oil squirt can, stick it right in that hole, and I'm just gonna pump oil right into it. See, until it starts running out. Just lube it all up. I'm gonna put a bunch of oil on this roller. Again, another reason for using the black gloves, makes it a lot easier. Then once it's all lubed up, just drop it right in. Okay, next I am going to install the S-NES lifter anti-rotation cuffs. So what I do is use two 2,000 inch feeler gauges that I put in around the lifters while I torque down the lifter cuff to make sure that that there's plenty of clearance. So let's go ahead and do this. So here's the rear one. Just pretty much stick it on, just that easy. Front one as well. And I'll put just a touch of red Loctite on the bolts. Just screw them in. I'll run them down until they just touch. Then I back them off about a quarter turn. So you should be able to move them with your fingers. Okay, and then again about a quarter turn. If you can hear that or not, maybe not. The mic might not be picking up, but they're clicking because I can move them. They wiggle. So what I'll do is I'll turn the crankshaft over to get it to where the cam is on the overlap period for each set of lifters. So at the overlap, an overlap is when both intake and exhaust valves are open just a little bit at the same time. So what that does for us is, let me get a socket here. It gives us more contact, I guess, area for the feeler gauges to kind of touch on. So we'll just watch. There we go. We already came up on it. So right about there. So then I'll stick the feeler gauges into both sides of the lifter where those flats are at. And that's where it's going to contact there we go. And that's where it's going to contact the lifter cuff. Now, still wiggles a little bit, that's fine. So what this does is as I go to torque down this one bolt, the whole thing's going to want to, shift on you. So it might cause binding or pressure or excess wear or rubbing on the lifter, which we don't want. So by putting the feeler gauges in there, it creates our clearance, and then as I torque it, even if it does shift, it's not going to go past that 2/1000ths. So it should, in theory, always have 2/1000ths with a clearance at least, which is what the spec is from S-NES. So I'll torque these to, I'll put these right about a little tighter, about 110, 120 inch-pounds or so. So right about there. Say about 110. And then we'll torque it down. So we should have a minimum of 2 thousandths clearance on all sides. And a good way to check is to just rotate the motor over and make sure that there's no binding. So I'm going to grab the connecting rods again up here since there's nothing really supporting them. Don't want them to bounce around, so just rotate the motor over and we'll just watch the lifters go up. And just gravity should be able to take them back down. And they're working fine. And that one just has some extra thick lube in it or something. There we go. Yeah, all good. No binding. Lifters are going up and down. So there's zero drag on these lifters and the lifter cuffs. You don't need to watch me put on the lifter caps or anything like that, or even put on the cam cover. Maybe I'll leave the cam cover off for now anyways. But next step we'll tackle is I'll show you how to check and file the piston rings for the pistons and cylinders. And I'll go through installing the pistons, piston rings, and cylinders and all that.